Greetings everyone and welcome to my crafting space. Today I will be teaching you how to draw a very simple creature. So today we will be learning how to draw an eagle. This is one of the easiest ones to draw, and I will be showing you an easy way of how to do it. Now, drawing an eagle may seem daunting, but I will teach you how to do so in an easy, efficient manner. Let's get started. So what we're first going to want to do is we are going to want to start with an initial sketch. Start a circle. Make the guidelines of the circle and connect the dots. Simple as that. Now, we want to add one arc here. Just an arc. You see that? Connect this arc. You want to curve this line just a little. Right here. And make sure this line extends a little here and goes a little down. And then extend the bottom line. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not doing it perfect. And we have an eye. The eye here is going to be just draw an arc on top, draw an arc on the bottom, and then refine it up like by adding a little shading on top, adding a little shading on the bottom. Now, you might ask, hey, how am I supposed to shade this? You never taught me how to shade. Well, shading, you just very gently press down on your pencil and stroke. That's all you need to do to shade. If you need a little practice, I will have a separate tutorial on how to shade. But as I was saying, you add the pupil, just a very simple circle. Make sure it's a hemisphere. It cuts off on the top of the eye, depending on how you have the eye set up. I prefer you follow this for your first attempt, but you can do anything you want. You can add a small iris like that, a little smaller circle or semicircle inside the circle. A little highlights will be little lights for the eyes. You may want to shade it in. I'm a little far from my computer here. I'm a little far from my stuff. I'm a little far from my sketch pad. Recording this is an absolute nightmare, so that's why it's not going to be the best one of my videos. But I figured this tutorial will be helpful for you. But as I was saying, what you need is you need to draw these. Basically what there is, just draw these lines on the beak. Draw this one here. Draw it like that. And then draw this elongated circle. Now what you need to do is you need to feather the bottom. And you might ask, oh my gosh, feather the bottom, how am I supposed to? Relax. Lines, little triangles like this. Triangle, 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 triangle. Just like that. It's almost done. Look at that. Look at your work. Lines around the eyes to add dimension and character. And now we got to shading, the real shading. First, darken the beak. Once you get the initial sketch. Don't press too lightly, don't press too heavily with your pencil down when you're just doing the initial sketch. Because when you're doing that, you might want to erase. And when you erase, for instance, that. It's also harder to blend with that, but that's a different story. But like if I erase that, like my pencil eraser is pretty good, but it does leave a smudge if I erase very. But yet, if I do this, erases without a trace. This, you can still see the smudge here. Probably get rid of it, but it's hard to get rid of. So as I was saying, you darken after you get the sketch done. This is a rule I don't follow very much, but is a rule you should follow generally, because of course there are exceptions, of course. But it is something you should do. It's a recommendation from me. to just not press down too hard with your pencil. We'll keep drawing these lines around the eagle's head. Hey, there you go. You're getting somewhere. Now, let's do a quick sketch of the eagle's body. 2 arcs. This one and that one for the wing. Oh my gosh, I really can't see what I'm doing. But basically, and you also feather down the body. The guideline for the body is just an arc like that. And feather it downwards like this. Feather this. Feather it. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is just our initial guideline. And now feather these wings. And let me move. Okay. When you feather the wings, it should look like this. Once you have finished with that. Now what you want to do for your design is you want to add just a little feather here. Just if you having trouble with this, just line down right next to the wing. And now go like feather it. With our feathering strategy, go like this. And we'll worry about the claws in a bit. For now, you can add a placeholder. Placeholders are always welcome in art, unless you're doing it with pen. The placeholders are like, you can still do it a little, but it's a lot harder. And now let's get to shading. Shading is the tricky part. Well, it's not as tricky if you know what you're doing. Just very gently stroke like that across the beak. Add a little shading here. Just continue this. I'm not going to get into too elaborate with shading. A lot of people complain about these art tutorials. They tell me do this initial sketch and it's just this basic thing, and then shading, and the shading is so hard. Yeah, I understand that, but for us artists, the reason why we do it that way is because the initial sketches are generally the harder part, and the shading comes naturally. This is because when you shade all the time, it's like a natural thing for you. But the initial, like, thing that you guys would find, like, oh, this is just a 2-second sketch, isn't a 2-second sketch when you got practice doing something else. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyways, keep feathering it, just like I'm doing. Pause the video at your own pace, by the way. If you have any questions about my tutorial, just tell me in the comments. I hope you enjoy this tutorial, by the way. I hope you find it super informative and helpful. Here's how it's looking right now. And let's add a little bit. So, like, I would teach you how to feather every single one in, but that is a little bit complicated for the scope of what we are doing here. Just keep adding them. By the way, you don't want to just make a V like that. You want to go V, but shake your pencil a little. See how that's the difference? Now, if you want to get all fancy and do feathers, line in the middle, line like that, or that, and just go like some lines down the center. Do this in a very small scale. Looks like a feather. We're not going to get that sophisticated here, as this is a quicker tutorial, and that would take longer for one of my more elite, advanced, like, crazy hard tutorials. And this is a beginner tutorial. Well, not a beginner necessarily. You don't have to be a beginner to watch this. But you know what I'm saying. I'm saying that this isn't going to be the most challenging tutorial. Oh yeah, now we got to cover the claws. Just like this, like that. An arc An arc down, arc down, arc down, and we go like this. Claws don't have to be perfect. Just have to be like placeholder. If you want to impress someone, with your art, you don't have to make claws perfect. Make some of these feathers darker. Look at that. Look at how it's coming. Look at how it's coming. In fact, now all we have to do, if you want to make it really, really detailed and realistic, add shading like this. No work at all. Just press very, very, very lightly with your pencil and add these little gradients that I'm adding, as you can see. Just very gentle. Look at that. And just do this. You can add it to other places too. You can do this throughout your entire eagle. And I'm not going to do it for the entire eagle for the purpose. I'm just going to put it in a couple places. But if you want to impress somebody with just a sketch, here you go. Try it out. Thank you. Hope you had fun watching my video and you found it real informative. Have fun.